Hey, this is Paul from Guitar World, and what I have here is the Egnater Tourmaster 4100 head and cabinet. Now, this is a 100-watt beast with 4 channels, and it's a sophisticated amp, but it's as easy to use as having a single-channel amp. So let's take a closer look at it. The Tourmaster 4100 is really easy to use. It has 4 channels, as I said before, beginning with the Clean Vintage 1, Clean Vintage 2. We have Overdrive 1 and then Overdrive 2. We also have a global master volume, global reverb, a global density, and a global presence knob over here. Now, it's really simple to use. Each channel has the same set of controls. You have your standard treble, middle, bass, and gain knobs. We have your standard volume, and there's a contour knob, which adds an additional EQ curve if you need it. Each channel has its own classic and modern voicing switch. Basically, the way to understand that is the classic has a little bit more of a bite, and it's a little bit brighter, whereas the modern selection sounds a bit darker. So I'll let you hear both sides of that, and we'll run that through its cabinet, which features Celestion Vintage 30 speakers. A lot of the Tourmaster special features can be found on the back of the amp. Over here, we have the effects loop, where we have knobs for both the mix and level of the send and return. You can also assign the loop with this switch. The Footswitch is over here. But the heart of the amp begins with its selectable power grid. So this is a great part of the amp. What you can do is you can run the amp at full power, or you can run the amp at half power. Once you select where you want to run the amp at full power, you can, for each channel, you can select how much power you want. So at full power, on each channel, you can dial in it from 100 watts to 50 watts or to 25 watts for each channel. And then if you move it down to half power, you can assign each channel at 50 watts, 25 watts, or 10 watts. So using this power grid, you have a great deal of flexibility. Also, on the Tourmaster 4100, we have a record out, so you have a speaker emulation. And you can also self-bias the tubes over here. And of course, you have your speaker outputs. Last but not least, let me talk about the Footswitch really quick. The great thing about the Footswitch, it uses a MIDI cable over here. It's really compact and it'll fit very easily on your pedal board. Very simple. You just pick your channel and you can activate the effects loop and then activate the global reverb on this. Really solid Footswitch. Let's begin with channel 1, which is the Clean Vintage 1 channel. This is the cleanest of all channels. It gets a little bit dirty, but not as dirty as Clean Vintage 2, and you'll hear that in a moment. But I set all the toggles here, mini switches, I should say, to the classic sound. So we'll hear that first. So let's start with Clean Vintage 1. Moving over to Clean Vintage 2, this is a bit more grit to it, and you'll hear that right about now. Now let's move over to Overdrive 1, which gives you a great British crunch and everything in between. Let's hear that. Finally, let's hear Overdrive 2, which has the most amount of gain, and probably this should be your solo channel. Let's check it out. Okay, now let's have some fun. I've moved all the mini toggles to the modern setting, and what this does, it makes the amp a bit darker and a bit more meaner sounding. Now let's hear clean vintage 2. Now let's hear Overdrive 1. Finally, let's hear Overdrive 2. The Egnater Tourmaster 4100 amplifier, along with its matching cabinet, is an attractive high-end amplifier for guitarists who need 4 channels to dial in everything from classic to modern rock tones. And with its selectable power grid, you can take this amp anywhere from the bedroom to the arena. Check it out.